There is not a single day that you cannot grow. Every day there's something new that you can learn. There's a new habit that you can change. There's a new behavior that you could be aware of. There's a new person that you can meet and be kind to and do good deeds for. You see, life we split up into days, hours, minutes, seconds. And I think one of the reasons why we do this is so that we can measure time. We can measure our existence on this earth. In reality, there is no such thing as time, but the very concept of time that we have created helps us measure our progress, helps us measure our journey, and whether or not we are actually advancing on it. If we didn't have days or months or weeks, for example, then how would we know when things are due? How would we know when deadlines are? How would we know to plan things? And above all, how would we know that we are progressing on a certain task or a habit or a behavior? It's the notion of time that allows us to kind of put this all together in one frame. So when you think about your life and when you think about your own spiritual journey, think about all of the things that you could be working on right now. Now, when I say these things, that doesn't mean, go out there and buy every single spiritual book out in the library. It doesn't mean listen to every single spiritual teaching on YouTube. It doesn't even really mean spending all of your day doing spiritual activities. But it does mean recognizing, how can I be better than the person I was yesterday? Sometimes it's small, almost kind of imperceptible changes that can make all the difference. A drop in a drop can make the entire river. And that's how we should view our own spiritual progress. We don't have to view it necessarily as some grand, step function change that transforms us entirely from one day to the next. It's all about the subtle changes. They always say good things come in small packages. And the same is true. Think of your life as a painting, right? With each brush stroke, with each color, with each contour, you're able to create this masterpiece. And the same is true for our spiritual growth. Every minute that we spend observing our behaviors, every minute that we spend trying to develop a new positive habit, will ultimately end up in creating an entirely new person. Or to perhaps put it in more clearer terms, will help us reveal the person that we actually are, behind this mental facade that we've created, behind all the worries and fears, behind all the self-doubt, and behind all the conditioning that we have accepted and accumulated over time. So when you look at your life today, try to instill this habit to work on yourself nonstop. Never stop learning. Never stop growing. Because in truth, there is no end to it, right? One of the things that we do very often, most of the time unconsciously, is we like to reach a destination. We like to see things as having a start and a finish. But this is perhaps one of the most dangerous things you can do on the spiritual journey, because there is no finish. There is no end point. Every minute that you are alive can be a moment used for spiritual awakening. So instead of trying to put some abstract goal in mind, like I want to awaken, or I want to read this many books, or I want to meditate for this many hours, or I want to visit these pilgrimage sites, view it as all as part of a continuum that never ends. If it helps, you can have those, goals as milestones on your journey, but never let them be the end all be all, because that will just limit your growth. Even great spiritual teachers, even great spiritual masters who have spent years working on themselves, years growing and learning, will still tell you that they have so much more to learn. It's like that famous quote by Socrates, I know that I know nothing. Socrates is, of course, considered one of the wisest minds in history, right? One of the great fathers of Western philosophy, someone who inspired the likes of Plato and indirectly Aristotle, and of course, so many other great minds and intellectuals after that. But even he, who supposedly attained such a high level of wisdom, realized that this is not enough. There's more that he can learn. There's more that he can experience. You know, there's this famous analogy that I heard one time uh, about, kind of wrestling and jujitsu and so on. And of course, like many martial arts, there's kind of a belt system, right? You start with a white or a blue belt, and then you kind of progress all the way to black belt and so on. And they once asked, this is the story. They once asked the black belt. I think it was actually a double black belt, but they once asked the black belt, who's the most dangerous opponent you have faced? And he said, the one who has just started, the one who has just, has a white belt, for example. And the questioner was kind of puzzled by this. He's like, what do you mean? Like, these are the most easiest opponents, right? Because they're not as experienced, they're not as advanced, they're not as strong, etc., etc. But the black belt master said, no. The reason the white belt is so difficult is because they're so unpredictable. They're so new. They have yet to be stuck in their ways. They have yet to be stuck in their certain forms. They're constantly learning. They're constantly trying new things. And of course, that doesn't mean that the black belt is done learning. But it's just the story, or the moral of the story, is there to remind us that we should always continue to learn. No matter if we have all the black belts in spirituality, in self-help, in personal development, in self-realization, no matter how many black belts that we have accumulated, we should always live life with the perspective that we are just starting out with a white belt. And that's why they say it's so good to embrace kind of the mindset of a child. A really small child who is so enamored with the world, full of wonder, full of curiosity, full of just wanting to learn, having that eagerness to learn. It's not like you and I, where we look at something and we kind of just disregard it as a normal thing. To them, a bird flying in the sky could be the most majestic and magical thing they've ever seen. To us, it's just another ordinary bird. But you see, there's something that can be learned from that, right? And I've talked about this a lot in other videos as well, as having kind of that childlike mind, having kind of that innocence and that humility and that curiosity that never ends. Because that's what's going to help us continue to grow. That will fuel our thirst for knowledge. That will fuel our progression as a human being. If all of us could just have the mentality of a child, but the maturity of an adult, then we would live in a far more peaceful, far more enlightened world. But it's because we have become so stuck in our ego's thinking, we've become so stuck in our ego's behaviors and conditioning that, sometimes we think that we know what's best. Sometimes we think we know more than we actually do. And it's that sort of arrogance, it's that sort of hubris that creates a lot of conflict in the world, that creates a lot of conflict in ourselves. So it all comes down to this mindset of never stop learning, never stop growing. You can spend decades doing something, and there will still be something there to teach you. There will still be a lesson to learn, still something, even if you think you've learned it all. Perhaps the ultimate lesson is to have humility. And that lesson is never complete, right? You can never say, I'm fully humble. It's all relative, right? You could be more humble than you were yesterday, or you could be less. But you can never say, I'm humble, and that's it. And that's the beauty of life. It forces us to think long term. Even though we want to break things up, even though we want to make things finite, it really is an infinite spectrum. So I hope you guys got this sense that your learning will never stop. It's not like school where you get a degree and you finish college or you finish a program and that's it, you're done. Spiritual learning, spiritual development is never done. There is no final degree, there is no final exam, there is no final sort of destination. The destination is in the journey. And as long as you can recognize this and honor this, as long as you can set out each day trying to live by these principles, then I promise you will grow as an individual. You will grow as an enlightened being. And of course, experience the many benefits that come from that, right? Not only having the wisdom, but the awareness, the peace, the joy, the understanding, and the purpose, right? Why are we here? What's the ultimate goal of all this? The more you acquire wisdom, and the more you travel more on this path, the more you start to see your life in one big lens. You're not so much focused on what do I have to do today or who do I have to meet, right? Those are kind of more of the superficial, kind of lower activities that you might engage in, but there's a higher purpose, a higher set of activities, a higher set of attitudes and frequencies that you can adopt once you start to develop that awareness, once you start to grow within your journey. So I hope you found this encouraging and helpful. I know this is something that me personally, of course, I'm always learning, right? Even though I might, press record and speak for a few minutes, believe me, I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. I speak from experience. I speak from the heart. And if that helps you guys, then, I feel even great about it. But, it's just something that I wish to share. And it's something that I'm always growing, something that I'm always learning. I look back at some of my older videos and I'm like, wow, how much have I changed as a person, even just 6 months ago or a year ago? So we're all in the same boat together. No one's higher, no one's lower. We're all in the same boat. We're all trying to, in the words of Ram Dass, we're all trying to walk each other home. So I want to thank you all for taking some time to watch this video, to letting some of the wisdom and teachings just kind of seep through. And if you have any questions or you wanted to learn a little bit more, please don't hesitate to drop a comment, ask a question, or just check out some of the other videos on the channel. I'm always trying to produce new videos every week. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to do that, but it is a goal of mine. And so far I've been able to do it. So I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, just take a moment, check, browse through the channel, check out some of the other videos. And if you like what you see, then, please consider becoming a subscriber. I'd love to have you as part of the community. And it'll be great to just kind of see what we can accomplish together, where we can go together as this journey continues to unfold. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.